Hi, Mrs. Harris. This is Jorge Llorens. I wanted to create this video for you so that I could go over what we discussed on the phone and show you my opinion about what you are going to be doing when you're considering buying this home that you are in Coyote Trail. So let me go ahead and show you a couple of things here real quick. I already did some of my preliminary research, so I have most of this material ready for you. So I want to show you two things in this video. The first thing is going to be what the resale market is doing in your area. And the second one is going to be what the new construction is doing in your area. So let's go ahead and look at this information. I have you right here on Coyote Trail under resales and new construction. So let's take a look first at what the resales are doing. And one of the most important things first is that we need to set our expectations clear. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at sales that have happened in the last 180 days. I'm looking at detached properties, that means single attached. That means that they're not a duplex. I'm looking at resales, 10% up or down between the 1780 that the home that you're in is, so between 1600 and 1960. And then, of course, I have to be very careful and I have to make sure that they're not corporate owned or fixer-uppers, foreclosures, HUDs, anything of that kind. It has to be a resale, something that an individual is selling to another individual. And of course, I'm also taking care that the property does not have a pool. As far as the cooling, I have to make certain that it has refrigerated and that it has a standard double attached garage. And then I put in this field right here so do not get hit by any Secretary of Veterans Affairs foreclosures. So let me show you what the map looks like. So to give you an idea, you are right here on Coyote Trail. And each one of these red pins represents a sale that has taken place in the last 6 months that is within 10% of the square footage of the house that you're in. And as you can see in this area in particular, there is not a lot of activity going on right now. What this tells me is that there's not a lot of homes similar to your own in this particular neighborhood that are currently for sale. There's many right here and some over here, but none in the Coyote Trail area. Now, you may be thinking to yourself that this is not a lot of sales in a 6-month period, and you would be right. The reason, and I will show you later, is because in this entire section right here, and in this entire section right here, there is right now a tremendous amount of new construction taking place. That is just new houses that the builders are putting up for potential buyers to buy during the winter and spring months. So what we really care about is what the results look like. And the first thing that I want to show you is that these are the addresses that have sold. There are 22 sales, and this is how much they were asking for the houses, and this is how much the houses actually sold for. So as you can see, you would be at the asking price that this gentleman is asking you of about 162. You would be pretty high on this list, not considering the fact that these houses are significantly larger. So for 162, if you were willing to pay 162, you have to have about 100 square feet more worth of house. Not to mention what you have right here is dollar per square foot. And in the report that I'm going to send you, you're going to get to see what all these pictures look like, what all these houses look like. But just for example, to give you an idea, something near to you. For example, this house right here on Falling Rock. This is pretty close to you. It's 2604 Falling Rock. It's very close to your own square footage, 1745, and it sold for 149. The asking price was 149, sold for 149. So just to give you an idea of what these houses look like. This is also from the same builder. This is going to be Classic American, and you can tell right away just by looking at the house, the quality of the construction. So nothing too outrageous. It is an entry-level builder. You can see that there's a little bit of splits right here, but for the most part, it's a house very similar to your own, not in the floor plan per se, but in the quality of the construction. But it does have a big lot. Look at this. So this house with this humongous lot right here sold for 149,000. And they also paid $3,341 in closing cost assistance. Now, of course, in any list like this, we're going to have outliners. So there was this house right here that sold for 170,000, and it is this property right here. They paid $5,100 in closing costs, sold for 170, and this was 1,859 square feet. This is the house. It's a pretty looking house, and this is what the interior looked like. It had wood shutters throughout. That is certainly a plus. Granite in the kitchen, a bit of upgraded fixtures. So if the house that you're in looks somewhat like this, then what I could tell you is that this particular couple that bought this house, they were okay paying an above average dollar per square foot. And look at this backyard. Now, this is an impressive backyard, and this accounted for the sales price. Likely, the reason that this house sold for 170,000, which is significantly above the average, is because the backyard was professionally finished. You have a full gazebo right here. It looks like you have an exterior fire pit. I mean, this house was made for entertaining, and that's why it's at the top of the market. Now, let's talk averages, which is an easy way of looking at what the basic neighborhood is doing. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to export all of this data. So let me export this, and we're going to export it with closed data and concessions because I feel that this is important that you see, especially if you're going to try to negotiate buying this house. So here we are. These are, oops, let me move this. These are the exact same houses that I showed you before. 22 cells from 1 to 23 minus 1 is 22. And let me take care of this real quick. Okay, so here we are with information. So the first thing that I wanted to show you is that these again are the sales prices, and these are the concession amounts. What the concession amounts are is these are the amounts of money that the sellers paid on behalf of the buyers so that the buyer could buy their house. And these are significant amounts. The reason that these amounts are so high is because, as I told you before, around these houses, there's a lot of new construction taking place. So just to refresh your mind, going back to what I was talking about, the reason that these people are selling and are giving away so much money during the sales is because all through here there are new homes for sale, and builders typically will pay all of your closing costs if you buy one of their houses. Anyways, going back to this information, if we just look strictly at the average and we want to know on average how much are sellers paying in this subdivision to sell these homes, you can see that the average is going to be about $4,638. What this means to you is that when you're negotiating, if you decide to move forward on this house that you are currently leasing, you need to tell your seller, listen, Mr. Seller, I am somewhat considering buying your house, but in addition to renegotiating the sales price, which in my opinion is high, you also need to talk to me about my closing costs, which I know that in the area are high, on average about $4,500. And this is power of information to negotiate with. If you want to have the average sales price for the subdivision for 10% up and down from where you are, then the average sales price is about 148,000. So if your buyer is asking you 162,000, you're probably overpaying for the house. There are other sellers out there that likely are going to take less for their home, and you're going to find something that is very, very comparable. Remember, the reason that this house right here was so expensive is because it had all those extra amenities. So if you're going to be in this price range, you're definitely above the market. And keep in mind that these houses are already larger than where you are. Also, the other thing that I can tell you is that if you want averages of what the average house looks like, in that neighborhood, or in rather the price point that you're in, you're looking at about 1747. So the house that you're considering buying is going to be a tiny bit larger than what the average is, but not by much. We're talking about 40 square feet. Definitely not something that I would say should alter the sales price to be much higher than this. So be careful, because if you decide to move forward in this house, one of the first things that you need to do is you need to bring the sales price from 162 down to around 148. I really would not offer to pay more than 151, 152, given the information that we have here. These are sales. This is the hard data about what people are buying houses for in that area. And the second thing that is extremely important is that you really need to tell this person that they need to help you pay for your closing costs. There is absolutely no way that you should agree to buy this house without some kind of large concession on your closing costs. I don't know if you're going with an FHA, or if you're going with a VA, or if you're going with a conventional purchase. On a conventional, the most that you will be able to ask for is going to be 3%, so about $4,500. If you go with an FHA or a VA purchase, then at that point you'll be able to ask more than 3%. But this gives you ammunition to be dangerous during the negotiation if you decide to pursue this option. The next thing that I wanted to show you is this is all nice and dandy. This is what the sales have taken. This is what the sales are. But what is actually on the market right now? If you want to take a look at what the market is doing on the resale market, then these are the houses that are currently for sale. And again, if we go and we take a look at what is available or what is not available, you will see right away that you can find some real giveaway homes. For example, there's this house right here on Rainier Drive that is 1,800 square feet and selling for 147. And keep in mind that this is just the opening move. It's not a foreclosure. This is a regular sale. And to give you an idea, this is what the house looks like on the inside. Has nice curb appeal, developed backyard. This is a Saratoga home. You have granite and right here. You have a formal living. Looks like they have upgraded the floors on this house. And these people, simply because they know where they are, they're probably going to pay you a lot of closing costs. So what I'm trying to show you right here through these slides is that if you decide to look elsewhere, more than likely you are going to find other homes out there that have more competitive and more appealing sales prices. For example, you have this one right here for 155. This is 1748 square feet. This one's also available. And as you can see, it's another house. This one is from Classic American. It's going to be very similar to your own. So there's definitely other fish out there for you to consider. And because they are being aggressive, I mean, sellers have to be aggressive in this neighborhood. They're probably going to negotiate the sales price, and they're also going to negotiate the closing costs. So food for thought is just to give you an idea of what the market has to offer out there. And this is also information that I will send you. Then finally, the other thing that you might want to consider is what is the market doing in the new construction? And I have that information right here under new construction. So the first thing that I want to show you is the map. You are right here. Each one of these pings is a new house that is going up or is getting ready to be sold. There's 179 houses for sale in your immediate area. This is a lot of houses. This is why homeowners in this neighborhood, the sellers, they have to be so aggressive with their pricing, and they have to pay so many closing costs because there is all this competition going on around this area. So if you were curious about what new construction looks like in this area, you can see that if you organize it by square feet and you want to go to around 1,700 square feet, just to keep something similar to your own, you could probably buy new construction starting at about 160,000. It says right here 1732. Your house is 1780. So for about 160,000, you could buy a brand new house. And surprise, surprise, who is the builder? Sure enough, it's Classic American. So one of the things that I'm trying to point out for you is that this gentleman is trying to sell you this house for more than you could probably buy a brand new house for. And that, in my opinion, is really something that you should try to stay away from. New construction will pay all your closing costs. It will be with a new energy code, which, by the way, in 2016, the energy code in the city of El Paso changed, which means that anything built after 2016 is going to be more energy efficient. Food for thought. And other than that, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory that if you're considering buying in this area and this gentleman's asking you for 160, unless he's willing to go to the very low 150s and pay a lot of closing costs or maybe even mid 140s, if you're going to pay 160 at that point, I would tell you, you know what? Maybe you would consider buying a brand new house. I mean, look at some of these houses, some of these listings. For example, this other 1736 house 1,736 right here on Loma Cristobal for 154. This is a bargain. 1,736 square feet for a sales price of 154. This is a VR Horton house. They're just trying to get rid of existing inventory, and this is what a brand new house looks like. It will have a finished front, but just to give you an idea, this is what the interior looks like, and this, of course, is going to be all new construction. One of the things that D.R. Horton does is that they usually put granite in the bathrooms. So the moral of the story is you have choices, and especially given this, I mean, brand new construction with 154 at 1736 square feet. This is really a giveaway price. As you can see right here, they lowered it by $15,000. Give me 1 second here to fix this. I'm getting a notification here. Okay, here we go. So this is the other information. I mean, as you can find a lot of stuff out there for you to pick from. So what are my final recommendations if you decide to do this? I'm going to put them in a Word format so that, oops, Word. So my recommendations are going to be as follows. Number one, sales price should be low 150s, at most. Average should be around 148 to 149, 500. If you can get the sales price around that point, then maybe you would consider going ahead and buying this as a resale. But if he wants to go 162, 160, that like that, there's absolutely no way giving the information that I'm showing you. The second thing that you should consider is that the seller should pay around 4,000 in closing cost contribution. If you're getting less than that in your closing cost contribution, then at that point I would feel that you're getting less than what the market is averaging right now. As I showed you right here, the concession amounts the sellers are paying on average is about 4,638. If you get a little bit less, a little bit more, I would be okay with that. But a sales price at 1,000, 150,000, you should get between 4,000 and 4,500. Then the next thing that you should consider if you're moving forward with buying this house that you're in is that the seller should pay for a home warranty. And usually these are going to range between $375 and $450. This is in the event that anything breaks down on the house after you buy it, the home warranty would kick in and it would take care of any repairs after a $60 trade-in call. It doesn't cover everything, but it does cover quite a bit of things. And then, of course, the other thing, and probably the most important thing, is that, oops, you should have your own representation. Do not accept for the seller to use his agent to, and I'm going to put this into parentheses, represent you. In the state of Texas, there's no such thing as dual representation. There is dual representation, but you cannot really be the advocate and the persecutor at the same time. Each party needs to have their own agents to represent their own interests. I guarantee you that the agent of the buyer is not the agent of the seller, is not going to be showing you this information that I just showed you, that you're probably overpaying for that house given what the new construction is looking like, what some other sellers have doing. And he's certainly not going to volunteer his client to pay $4,000 to $4,500 in closing cost contribution. All these things are things that your own agent should be on the lookout for you. So this should give you a pretty good idea of what your market is doing right now. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call. I would very much like to help you buy your future house, either if it's this one that you're in or if you want to take a look at what some of the market is doing. In conclusion, the one thing that I can tell you is that there's definitely more fish out there for you to consider. And unless you absolutely love this house and you hate moving, then my advice to you would be, unless you can get terms similar to this, it would probably be a good idea for you to look elsewhere. I believe this is it for now, Mrs. Iris. I'll remain in touch and I hope that this information is useful for you. Thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.